Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Ted, and today I'm hanging out with
Ryan,
Dave,
and today we're going to talk about role-playing as its own reward.
jump down in the description below where you can find Nerdarchy the newsletter, gain weekly tips as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
okay, so how much XP do I get for this role playing?
Here's 3.
Oh, sweet.
Well, in previous editions of the game, when I actually tracked XP, I would actually reward you for your role playing.
Awesome.
Indeed, there were little tick marks all over his pages.
He was just playing tic-tac-toe on his board.
Pretty much,
in the back.
What are you guys doing?
What are you guys gonna
I
do?
have the little
Hangman.
hashtags.
Yeah, so
Hashtags, he's like hashtag no XP.
yeah.
No, it was more like hashtag no magic items.
Back then, hashtags didn't exist.
Yeah.
It was just the pound symbol.
Yeah, it was.
So basically, you know, what those guys are talking about when we used to play, and I used to every time someone did something cool in game, I would give 10 XP, and I would
A
just
little
jot
hash
down.
mark.
Yeah. Any more Nerdarchy pretty much just awards levels, but that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is, sometimes players will make unoptimized decisions and choices with their characters, and we've seen DMs who want to kind of fix that.
Well, it's not only a mechanical choice, but sometimes it's an in-game choice where it's like, all right, I'm going to do this even though I know it's, as you said, unoptimized for the character or bad for the party.
Yeah, but great for a story arc.
But great for the story.
Well, like the idea of say a character who sort of develops a certain way, and maybe they don't have the best intelligence or wisdom, but depending on what it is, but they end up wanting to become a wizard or a cleric just because for the arc of the character, they have this spiritual awakening, and even though they have a 12 or a 13 wisdom, I think I'm going to take levels in cleric because it just my character's been really palling around with this paladin of this certain god, and story arc wise, it's kind of cool and interesting.
Or in Ted's game, I'm playing Uthengar of Clan Black Iron, who is a fighter wizard.
Fighter.
Well, yeah, wizard fighter technically, yes.
He fights wizards, yeah.
Yes, and here's the thing, right? The best way to create a fighter wizard in
The
5th edition,
optimal,
the right way,
yeah.
in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, is to be a fighter first, and then become a wizard. Only a moron would do it the other way.
And this, sir, is your moron.
Yeah. But one of the things I love about 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is, as a mountain dwarf, you get to wear armor and you get to use some martial weapons, no matter what you are. So I wanted to play a mountain dwarf wizard that basically was a warrior, and I could do it at first level. That was amazing to me. Now I still wanted to be a good fighter, so I was going to have to take levels of fighter. The problem being is when you multi-class into fighter, you don't get heavy armor proficiency, and I'm a dwarf, and he has to wear full plate mail at some point.
There's a contractual obligation for his dwarfhood for that, yeah. Otherwise, he might have to shave his beard and become a gnome. Yeah, it's the worst. Bylaws, man, bylaws.
So I ended up taking as my first feat a heavy armor proficiency, which is basically, as a player, I kind of took. I took a penalty. Now, I never said to Ted, hey, I'm doing this thing. Can you hook me up or help me out? I didn't care because in my mind, I had this vision of this character. And, so worst case scenario is he lost 1 stat point, essentially, from him forever.
Because you got the strength or con bump that you would get for taking heavy armor proficiency. So if you were already going to be putting points there, you lost a single point.
Yes.
Or another feat, however you want to look at it.
But to me, I wanted to play a wizard that fights, not a fighter that wizards.
Right. And if I had said we're going to start this campaign out at 2nd level, would you have taken fighter first and then wizard?
Absolutely.
So so by me starting the game off at 2nd level, at 1st level instead of 2nd level, you had to make that choice of, well, what do I do?
Well, yeah, because starting at second level, backstory is backstory. You say whatever the freak you want, really.
Yeah.
And be like, oh no, absolutely. I studied as a wizard the whole time.
It just didn't click until that second level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't very good at it. I'll tell you, I was a shitty wizard until a certain point, man.
I kept throwing books at people. Nothing would happen. I didn't get it.
I mean, like, the best cantrip I could do is I could make a drink kind of cold, like, that's about it. Sorry. Like, my Ray of
And
Frost.
retired ice cubes.
Yeah, my Ray of Frost is just like, well, now you have a nice iced macchiato, sir. I was a barista, is what I'm trying to say, guys. I was a dwarven barista.
So yeah, you never said anything to me. I didn't really think about it because it was a choice that you had made for your character. Now, there's players out there that they're going to gripe and beg and plead and whatever have you, and there's players that are going to just do what you do and just say, all right, this is the choice.
Well, I mean, but everybody also makes all the decisions on their own, and there's different reasons that people play role-playing games. I mean, we can't take the G out of the role-playing game.
No, you can't.
So, I mean, some people, like, especially if your GM's super hardcore and makes, like, very survivalist, like, old-school dungeons, like, having a very optimal character who's the best at doing the things that they're supposed to do is important. But if your group leans on the RP part of the RPG, then, like, you're much freer to do these sort of, like, role-playing is its own reward, but you want your character to survive so you can keep playing your character.
Well, here's the thing, though. Even with that example,
Yeah.
there is 2 words that you need to keep in your vocabulary and never forget. Run away.
Yeah. Oh, run away. But, like, if you play any of the big mega dungeons, like, from back in the day, like, there's dungeons that, like, you're put into situations where you absolutely can't run away from them because you're, like, trapped, or the foes are just so overwhelming and they outmaneuver you. So, like, and the whole fun of those dungeons is, like, seeing how deep you can get before you die. Like, I was playing at Rappin' the Thook. We made it to 12th level, and then we were murdered by a Death Knight. So, yeah, so that happens. But, I liked playing my character. I built a personality for him, and that was all well and good. So that is the way that cookie crumbled.
Okay.
So, in regards to non-mechanical choice, with 5th edition, you have your bonds, flaws, ideals, that kind of stuff. When you make those choices, it can influence how the game is actually played. My cleric in your game, he can't tell a lie to save his life. That's one of his, I think that's his flaw. Well, earlier on, or many sessions ago, we're 9th level now, came up, and we got into a situation where we're dealing with someone that's shady, and we're trying to keep information out of them, or out of his hand. And I'm like, oh, I can't say this, so I just blab the information out. So now the party is like, oh, well, if we get into one of these shady negotiations, we got to keep really undistracted over here in some way.
Although, like, it depends on the character's mental stats, but not saying anything isn't the same thing as lying, really.
Right. Yes.
So just being quiet. But if you're, like, point blank to ask, like, then you probably just crack.
No. It's not a moral thing for his character. It's it's just naive. Is the word I want to use. And he just doesn't. He just doesn't think about the lie.
And we were in a conversation, so like I was back and forth.
And you're
with
like,
the
no,
guy.
you have no. It's in your backpack. Remember?
That was exactly what's like. Oh yeah, you got that thing right. So
no guile.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So it's what you get when you spend all your time with your face shoved in a book.
But back on topic, role playing is its own reward. So what you can do, for characters that are playing unoptimized, is in-game give them role-playing rewards. And what do I mean by that? That is, when they encounter NPCs, they can have contacts, or they can have certain advantages with certain groups because of some of the decisions that they've made.
Maybe eventually some things that lead to, like, lands and titles if they're built a certain way and that makes sense for the character. Like Falcor having the title of Lord bestowed on them, which you might have accidentally said in one session. I was like, all right, I have it now. So, like, him collecting titles and, like, a nice home, like, if we did, like, the cost of living upkeep.
A beggar called him my lord.
So, like, if we do things with, like, if we worried more about, like, tracking as far as, like, upkeep expenses or whatever, like, my character would do the most expensive level that he could afford because he likes luxuriant things around him. You know, he's probably the son of dragonborn nobility.
We're gonna have serfs start showing up, and they're gonna start they're gonna start having claims for you and make you hold court.
Nice.
You're like, wait, I'm not that kind of lord.
Yeah, well, I mean, once I get some land, maybe that'll happen.
You're like, I don't even own any land. Why are you here?
Yeah, and then like sometimes the penalty might be death by breath weapon. Yeah.
Yeah, role-playing choice, like your character, while you don't have the background of nobility or any of that kind of stuff, when you go home, you can be like, oh, well, you've said it a couple of times, like, oh, I'm going to get another keg. So like you get stuff from your clan without it actually having to cost anything or do anything. You're able to get into certain places. So there is role-playing aspects of your character.
I've kind of taken some agency with that character, and Ted has been gracious enough to allow it, where I go, oh, well, he comes from a clan of actual dwarven wizards, and so with that comes a little bit of prestige,
right.
Because it's unique to their hold.
Right.
And then even like when he's gone out further and further away from Crathon Gulch, his clan has been heard of, right. or is known because there just isn't a lot of
dwarven wizards.
A lot of dwarven wizards.
So we actually encountered a wizard that was the master of another character, and when you're like, oh, I come from this clan, he had recognized that, and there was a little bit of prestige there.
Right. So those role playing choices that you made can come up later in the game to open doors and offer some minor benefits.
I mean, isn't it just important to have it acknowledged? Like, it sounds like if you it's almost like getting back to the principles of customer service, where you like acknowledge that like a customer said something to you or whatever. Yeah. Like, it's the same thing. Like, if you kind of put that idea that the player put out there before and like sprinkle that throughout the game, then that is rewarding the role-playing choices of the player.
Yeah, it validates what they decided to do.
Right.
And you as the GM are saying it mattered.
Yeah, exactly.
And ultimately, that's what players are going to be looking for, the time and effort that they put in to make those choices and to make that character, that they want to feel that it was worth their time and worth their effort.
Some others just want to break shit.
Yeah, I mean, like, could you imagine the bard that, like, whenever he goes to face off of foes, like tells his name and is like, perhaps you heard of me, and like every single time they just get like an arched eyebrow, and, like, how are you? But like that one time, somebody did actually hear of him, like like levels and levels later, that player would be thrilled, like, oh, you're the one that did such and such, and like it would be totally overblown because that like whisper down the lane effect. Yeah. But like that would be pretty hysterical. Or like the one villain that like hears him like, yeah, no, I don't want to fight you, and just like it like backs out, like
surrenders on the spot.
Yeah, this like throwaway encounter that doesn't actually even happen. It's just meant to like highlight that character keeps going to the well and doing that. But yeah, it seems pretty solid.
Awesome.
So you guys, what do you do for your players that make unoptimized choices? Do you reward them with role playing? Do you reward them mechanically? Them's the breaks. How do you handle it? Let us know in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can check us out over on nerdarchy.com.
You can also find us over on Instagram.
So until next time, stay nerdy.